Now, I wanted to start off. I'm obsessed with names of brands, why people choose them. Tell me the story behind Tink Media. I just want to know where it comes from, what the thought process is. I love it, and just want to know how did it come to be the name of your agency?
I've always been a Disney fan. I actually auditioned to be Tinkerbell. It's named after Tink in
I could
Orlando.
totally see that.
I love her, and it's funny. I wasn't sure what to call the company. I didn't really think this would be a real company. I was still applying to other jobs. I almost called it Grandma Joyce after my grandma because I was like, this isn't
Oh,
real. But I called it Tink, and now it just you know how things make sense in retrospect. I'm like, it's so Tink. She is a person to me. Tink is, this company is a person. And honestly, I feel like Tinkerbell is magical and a little bitchy, and as all good founders should be. Uh, I think I am both of those things also. So in retrospect, it all makes sense. I think that we are all magical. A lot of the people at Tink actually are Disney fans. That is not why I hired them. So it makes sense a lot.
That's amazing. And I know from the podcast industry, authenticity is one of your key pillars, and you don't just talk it, you walk it. I've seen you do it. But see, here's the thing. Authenticity is this thing we all sort of toss out there. I've even got this phrase that I use if I'm giving a talk, that once you can fake authenticity, everything's good. It's kind of like a key message these days. How do you what separates real authenticity from performative branding in the eyes of gatekeepers like podcast hosts?
I mean, I, became a fan first. I was working in book publishing when I started my newsletter, Podcast the Newsletter. I had a podcast called Podcast. It was a podcast review podcast. I This all comes from a place of authenticity. I can't fake that. You can't fake it, right? It can't be manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I really didn't even think I mean, I wasn't even in PR. I loved the medium of audio, but I didn't know how to make audio, but I was in media and I figured out, I was working at the book publishing house. I wasn't on the PR team. The PR team would come up to me and say, Lauren, podcasts, can you pitch David Sedaris to get on some shows to talk about his new book? And I was doing it at the publishing house just because I understood podcasts. So that's really how Tink started. It was actually just for authors at first, to pitch authors to get on podcasts. So it really, really comes from this place of me just being such a listener, such a fan. I think the lesson is, if you can, make sure it's something you genuinely like, because it'll just be so obvious if you don't,
Mm.
and I also think it kind of helps that we offer a pretty niche service. I always am telling people to niche down, even when they're trying to think of the kinds of podcasts to have.
Right.
Um, and because we're so niche, there's not a lot of podcast growth companies anyway. So we can be pretty choosy with who we work with. And so we can work with the people that we know we're going to help succeed and that we're excited to help succeed. So I think the authenticity just goes almost so far back that we couldn't all of a sudden one day be like, okay, how are we going to be authentic? It starts before we all got here. It starts as we were all listeners. Some of us are producers. A lot of the people at the Tink team have podcast newsletters, and the other thing is, our company does a lot of things that are truly out of the love, that we don't make money for. They're not for our bottom line. Maybe they end up helping our bottom line. But we have this thing called Audio Delicacies, where at the end of the year, we reach out to audio makers and ask them to give their favorite podcast of the year. We make this big list of the best things, the things that aren't making the other lists out there, like the Time and the New York Times list. We have a podcast called Feed the Queue, where we're feeding your queue with things that we love. We have a recommendation hotline. We had this a month called Adopt a Listener, where we were obsessed with adopting non-listeners and turning them into podcast listeners. So we're constantly celebrating the medium, just because we want to, and everyone's in because they really want to.
I just love that, So spending 15 years in PR and all we do is sort of pitch, 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 pitch. And then all of a sudden, about 2 years ago, I started doing podcasts. And so all of a sudden I was on the other side where I was being pitched to. And that's like this massive aha moment. You're like, oh my God, how annoying are these pitches? These pitches that I've been writing for the last 15 years. How annoying am I? And it's really extraordinary because it really builds empathy, which then you can sort of translate into pitching. And and you've called your pitches your love letters. And I love that. And I wanted to just learn from you, Lauren, about what makes a great pitch, because a lot of PRs like myself all of a sudden are finding themselves pitching not only to sort of mainstream media, but also to podcasts. And we're kind of using the old techniques of how we pitch to mainstream media. And all we're doing is just not adapting it. So I wanted to learn from you, how do you uniquely approach them? Does it have to always just be on email? What makes it a love letter? Is it rooted just in passion and authenticity and you just can't fake it? Just want to learn from you, Lauren.
It's funny because I go to book publishing houses still and tell them how to do this better. Because I know I'm still in that world a little bit. And I'm trying to basically break their brains because they're so used to doing PDFs. I'm like, no PDFs. They're so used to doing things a very traditional way. And I'm like, the less formal, for me, this is what works for us. And we have a really good rate of doing this. The less formal, the better. It's funny because we do not use AI. We actually have a thing on our website that says human powered. And I can't tell you how many people comment on it. And when I told you that, both of you, I think you were kind of shocked. And I was unprepared for how shocking that was to you. Can you tell me, first of all, I want to hear, am I allowed to ask you, am I making a mistake? And why did that shock you so much? I was unprepared for the response.
Yeah, I think it's just, in the PR world that I'm in, everyone is talking about AI. Everyone is talking about AI adoption. And it's not necessarily a question of, do I use it or do I not? It's a question of how do we use it? And it's almost like we've lost the art of critical thinking, that we just take whatever wave is coming our way and just learn how to ride it better rather than just get out of the sea. And so what was extraordinary about when I went on your website and then I learned that you don't harness sort of AI is I actually thought to myself, why did I never think about it? Whether or not I choose to use it or not, but the fact is that sort of that adoption without critical sort of examining. And then I came across some research afterwards that shows actually how it really damages critical thinking, that when you use AI and how the copy starts, sort of becoming less engaging and so forth. But I was shocked, Lauren, because you're the first person that has said that to me, especially an agency owner. So I just thought that, I think that just shows how rooted you are in yourself and not going, with everybody else, and you're following your own path. And I find that really admiring. And but I'd love to know how you feel about it. Do you feel worried that will you be left behind, or do you feel that you may change your mind, or do you feel actually this is the right way? And also, how do you sell it to your team when your team go and have a drink with other PRs and they're like, oh yeah, I did that blog in 2 seconds, and and they're sort of working away. Is it easy to sell that into your culture that that's the right thing to do?
Yeah, it is funny, Farzana, you said something interesting earlier about you are in a unique position, both you and Doug, getting pitch letters. And I'm sure you can see, you can
Yeah.
you can tell.
Yeah.
So I am not nervous at all. We can revisit this if someday, and I'm not totally, I used it once to write an uncomfortable letter to a client. So I'm not saying I won't use it for anything, but our pitching process and that kind of stuff, we're not touching it. But I'm not nervous. It was not difficult to talk to the team about it. We did have a conversation about it, though. It was a real, I am very with my team, I'm like, what do you all think? I don't know. I don't know anything. Well, I don't have all the answers. I hired you because you're smart. What do you think? Also, they're all younger than me. They're better than me in so many ways. So we did have a good conversation about it. But before we even had that conversation, we put in our proposals, we map out how many pitches are going to be going out and how much time, exactly the amount of time to be spent on each proposal. So each letter should take 20 minutes. That's what I tell them. And I say, if it takes you less than 20 minutes to write a letter, you're not winning anything. We're losing. So don't you, that to me should be a huge relief that you have 20 minutes, because you should listen to the podcast. You should like do a little bit of research. You should write from your heart and what you think, and write like a producer. So that takes time. If you're taking less than, that's why we don't do blasts. So we were already kind of doing that. Like we were already like really, I was like, take the 20 minutes. You're allowed. It's okay. We baked that in for you. So I think when I'm also writing my own letters, I'm kind of like, and like you, Farzana, I'm getting pitch letters because I have a newsletter. So people want to be in my newsletter. And I constantly am like, because I like to look at the letters my team is sending out and the letters I'm sending them. I'm like, is this something I've seen before? Is this language something I've seen before? That's like the first question I ask. Like, how are you today? I loved your last episode about they've all seen that. That's easy. Have I seen that before? So I think being on both sides is really helpful. And if you're not on both sides, like try to pretend like you're on both sides. And also, I like to think my pitches aren't pitches so much as an invitation for collaboration. I'm not emailing someone I don't respect and know things about. I don't email a show that I don't have an investment in.
Yeah.
So when I'm emailing them, I know that they know that it's coming from a place where I'm not pitching something selfish. I'm also trying to make your show better because I have this great collaboration idea. I have this great guest, and maybe they can do something for you in return. Let's try to figure that out. It's coming from a really genuine place.
And now, I mean, your words off the top about the podcast, they mean so much more. So thank you for that, because you're being authentic and real about that. That being said, can I ask you a really stinky question here? The recipe I'm getting from you for authenticity is believe in it. That it's gotta, if you don't like it, if you don't enjoy it, you can't do it because you can't fake it. That's the recipe for being real, as well as be willing to be unreasonable, be willing to make people uncomfortable, right? And I really like all that. That being said,
if you believe in fairies, clap. Or wasn't that Peter Pan, Tinkerbell?
I love that. If you're, but see, you're the boss here. So it's real easy for you to say that. The reality of any employee who reports to a boss is that their job is to make the boss happy, not to just be themselves. They have to meet KPIs. They have to prove ROI. So the boss can sit atop their Everest and say, keep it real, people. The employees have to keep it flowing to what the boss actually wants. How do you create a culture that allows people to be themselves when the reality is the only one who can be themselves is you?
I mean, that's a really hard
Stinky,
question.
right? Stinky.
It's stinky, pew. I think about it a lot because I don't know how these people came into my life. I hired them in very not recommended random ways. So I think, I didn't hire PR or marketing people. None of them were, including me. Because I thought, I can teach you PR marketing. I learned it. I can't teach you how to love podcasts. I can't teach you to be a listener. I need you to be a listener first. And that's when when I go to the book publishing houses, I'm like, you need to listen. And they're like, really? Oh no. And I'm like, sorry, bad news. You have to listen to podcasts a little bit. You do. So they're listeners. So coming in, they're, right off the bat, I know that they understand podcasts. I think one thing that I do is I trust them and I let them soar in their own direction. And also they like each other, so they collaborate. I think those things, I can't really take credit for that. But I do, I'm not like type A managing everything that they do. I'm trying to ask them questions as much as they're asking me questions. So I kind of feel like letting them figure things out in the best way, in their own way of doing it, and like trusting that they're going to do it. Like letting go of a lot of stuff.
Is it hard? Because I'm in the same boat, right? I lead a small team, and I have this exact same approach. But truth be told, sometimes it's hard. I'm looking at it going, why are we doing that way? Stay back, Doug. Stay back.
I know I don't have a hard. Well, you know what? It got a lot less hard when I had a baby. So,
Yeah, that's right. You gotta let go of something.
yeah, but no, because I I trust them so much. I think they're so smart. If they're not doing something the way I do it, my first question isn't like, why aren't we doing it that way? My first question is, am I wrong? Like, why are they doing it this way? Is there some reason that they're doing it this
That's
way?
dynamite.
And yeah. And sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's just like, I mean, not, I'm not perfect, they're not perfect, but it usually merits a conversation that sometimes is more interesting, actually. Like than, having a conversation about why did you do that ends up teaching us something usually. So,
So, Lauren, I wanted to ask, PR is all about relationships, and it should be rooted in empathy, active listening, all these skills that we just inherently know. But why is it that as PRs, we have a reputation, say with journalists, of just spamming them, of not really listening, not really kind of knowing who they're talking to? And you mentioned earlier that your team members, they take 20 minutes, to draft an email that's very bespoke, to whoever they're sending. But that's not really the norm. A lot of agencies, they do the exact same pitch, and they just change the name. And occasionally what they do is they just put one sentence on top, which says, "Oh, I listened to your podcast," or "Oh, I read this article X," and that feels like it is generic with just a poor attempt of putting a little dollop of authenticity on top, which doesn't really work, because they kind of top and tail it sometimes with something that's personal because they've read. Let me just tick the box, but it feels, as obviously now I'm getting pictures. It feels formulaic and therefore fake and then disingenuous. And what I love about Tink, about your agency, is it's the focus is high conversion. So it's not about activity, and we sent out, thousands of, emails and just basically ruining producers' lives by sort of, just sending them just, emails that are disheartening. But I think that's really interesting what you're doing, because I think it's so true to PR principles, but yet so rare. And that perhaps, and I think that's perhaps why you've got the high conversions that you have. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's a crucial part of what we're doing. They're spending 20 minutes on a letter. They're not sending out 100 letters. We are going so slowly because we're listeners, because fans. We know the medium so well. We know what's going to work. We know who's going to say yes. So we're not sending to someone that we don't really believe is going to work. We're not sending someone an idea that we don't believe in. So there's not that many ideas. Like there aren't too many of them. I had someone on my team just came to me. We had a mini campaign. We got 100% something moving forward. 100%. There weren't that many. I want to say 6 to 8 letters.
And you scored on all 6.
Something happened with every single one of them. It's unheard of. And that's extreme and probably scary to some people, but if you could just go a little bit more in that direction, it's not about the quantity of these. When I hear PR companies, because sometimes clients or people that want to hire us will be like, well, this company promised this many pitches, and you're promising this many pitches. And I just think, I don't know what to say, because I'm not going to send 100. I'm not going to. And if you don't see that, I don't know. I don't see how you could have faith in, I don't know how to explain that I don't have faith in that method.
Yeah, I guess less is more.
Yes.
If you got 2 apple pies in front of you, and one of them is factory made, they make thousands of pies. The other one is homemade, from scratch, natural ingredients. Which pie are you going to eat? You're gonna have the homemade pie.
Exactly. And we do have like a little bit of a template, like for each one that we do use. There, it's like the show art,
Guide.
a little bit of description.
Yep.
But and it'll say like, we'll have our own letter and we'll say more below if you'd like to see more. If you really want to know what my letters look like, it's like personal note. Oh my God. I just wrote one the other day to someone that's these are friends though. Most of them are friends now because I started as a fan. I see them at conferences. I write about them in my newsletter. A lot of times we are doing things for podcasts, like emailing them and being like, congratulations, we're featuring you in Feed the Q, our podcast, or you've been nominated to be on our audio delicacies list. So they know when we're going to them, it's, for many, many reasons. It's not just, can you please have this thing from you? But I literally just emailed someone the other day and said, I can't believe I'm telling you this. I typed an idea for how the episode would be. I'm pitching my client to be on the show. I'm like, you could talk about this. And then I literally typed, I might delete this sentence later. I'm not quite sure. That might be a bad
Left it
idea.
in.
Nope, not doing it. I typed, it's too far to turn back
I
now.
like that.
I said it. I mean, that's
So cute.
authentically me. If I was calling that friend, that's how I would say that. Emailing these people, and I use AI, they'd be like, "What's wrong with Lauren today? Why is she talking like that?"
You just got to put some ums and ahs in your script, and it's just completely
It's,
natural.
I mean, oh gosh, I don't want to talk about Donald Trump, but it kind of is what he was doing with his tweets. Remember, it
Yeah.
was very like
Well, he is authentic.
authentic.
Yeah.
So, Lauren, thank you so much for your time. I do have a question for you that's been left by our previous guest, Emma Wilcott. Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Okay. So this is what Emma asked. I am a big fan of learning from failure. We're all works in progress. And as Fleabag said, Fleabag is this huge sort of TV show. Do you love? Okay, you have it in the US, fab. So as Fleabag said, pencils have rubbers on them because humans make mistakes. And she wants to know, what's your biggest communication failure? And most importantly, what did you learn from it?
I love this person. Okay. Can I give you a choose your own adventure? Because I have 3 possible and you can choose. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes. Okay, tons and tons and tons. I have like the very specific funny mistake that I can tell you about. The more like existential, like ongoing, like never-ending problem that I'm having, or actually recently asked someone on my team what one of my biggest mistakes was, and they gave me an answer.
Wow.
Which
Sorry,
one
I'd love to hear that one because that's real authentic feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want me to read it to you?
Sure. Was this one of these anonymous 360 feedback things, or were they not anonymous? Okay.
You often rush to protect the people you work with and care about. I do this too. And the way this comes across communication wise is jumping in to help when often someone just needs support and to be told, you got this, and trust that if they need help, they'll ask for it. And it's something we're constantly working on because it's part of who we are as people. You and I both are the kind of people who will jump in whenever and do what needs to be done and are bad at delegating. But what doing that effectively communicates to others is that we don't trust them to be able to do their jobs. I'm being very introspective here about this too, and realizing this about myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they said.
Yeah, it comes from.
And I worry about my leadership skills sometimes because I never really wanted to start a company. I never was a big manager person. So there are downsides about, I'm talking about like trusting people, supporting people. I'm not a very authoritative person. And I think sometimes a team needs a strong leader to make decisions.
Time for an alpha and time for a beta sometimes. Yeah.
I need to.
Yeah, that's and if you're not worried about your leadership, you're not a good leader. You really really should be.
Huh. Oh my God, then I'm not worried anymore because that means I'm a great leader.
Oh, see, now I defeated the whole purpose because I just said you should be worried.
No, you've solved everything. I'm not worried anymore.
Your turn,
Don't worry,
Lauren. What question would you like to leave behind for our next guest?
Well, I would like, this is kind of a selfish one. I would like to hear the most creative use of AI your next guest has used, because I'm wondering what I'm missing out on.
Wow. I must admit, I have taken so we've tried different AI tools. I ChatGPT. It's like I drink Coke. You know, I'm not very creative that way. ChatGPT is the one, but I am getting into creating. You can create a specific GPT that uses certain keywords, a specific kind of language, and I really think some of the stuff we're starting to turn out. It's all human vetted, but some of the stuff we're starting to turn out is sounding on page. That's about as creative as I've gotten. Biggest failure, us be totally candid, the episode art that we've been trying to create for the podcast, because we play with AI on it. We're trying to get this consistent look, and yeah, it's just it's in progress. Farzan, how
The
about
art
you?
you have now. Oh, sorry. I just have to say the artwork you have now. I mean, this is hard, and this is a compliment also. It does not communicate how good this show is, but I don't know how to solve that
Bang,
problem. But
bang.
Razan,
You know what? It's an episode about being real, and I think that is completely real and right.
I would say, again, with this podcast, I never worked with a professional before, like Doug, who is professional with podcast production.
On.
It was all, it was always
Keep
like
going.
me and other people, and we were slightly blind leading the blind. None of us were really sort of podcasters or understood anything, and actually never took the the effort to actually learn about the art. And and Doug opened up this incredible world of podcasting, which I find is really fascinating. And I think what I learned from Doug, which was a communication mistake when I sort of made as a podcaster before co-hosting with Doug, was I was so focused on who the person I should be interviewing that I totally forgot about the topic and the insight, and just not having empathy for the audience, that actually they are time poor. They are busy. They often have a growth mindset if they're tuning into industry podcasts, and actually give them a gift, give them, find the insight, the topic. It's less about, oh, this person works in this company and has won that award, and wow, it's more like, it doesn't matter who it is. It's actually the gift of insight, and that doesn't come with a job title. That doesn't come with accolades or industry awards. That just comes with active listening and really unearthing the gems and the insight. And and I think the best podcasters are podcasters that have a very generous spirit, that they want to give to their audience, and they also want to make room and create the right environment for the guest, for them to thrive and pass on their gems of wisdom.
so good. I don't think a lot of podcasters are thinking that way. That's why this show is so good.
Awesome. Lauren, amazing to spend time with you. I've seen you at a few conferences, obviously read your newsletter faithfully, but to get a chance to spend some time with you, that's a real treat. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me. This was a
Thank
great
you.